And I'm just setting the stream up, and I'm actually going to broadcast it to the people that I know, just to let them know that I'm
It works.
broadcasting some Dungeons and Dragons, just in case they doubted it was possible.
Okay, now nothing's tangled up anymore. Everything's in tight. I replaced the USB adapter for the headset so it works. The last one flew to pieces.
Oh hell!
And then they sent Clementine out to send you a new one.
Yeah. Well, I told Amazon to send it to my current address, so it sent it to my old one. And that time I thought that it was actually a mess up on my part, but now that it's happened twice and I looked at the receipt for that, I'm going, Amazon. Then I ordered some delivery food, and on Grubhub it had my new address, and they sent it the wrong way in a completely different town from the restaurant because I had called them before and they kept my number on my address on their system and didn't check the actual address in the order. My poor old roommate.
All right, stream setup. It seems to be operating correctly. Now, yeah, in the incredibly lame way I have it. All right, here we go. I would like eventually to get a third and a fourth player, but I would like them to show up semi-regularly and to have active voice and video.
And my Saturdays are, let me see here. This month, the 25th, I'm kind of stuck. Otherwise, I'm good.
I would prefer Sunday because my Saturdays tend to be fairly hectic, especially since the next WoW expansion is a month away.
My Sundays are usually good as soon as I get home, pretty much. So 3-ish is generally the latest for me, my time. And then I'm home, and by that
The
time I'm
latest that you're
tired,
out, or the latest that you'll be able to play?
that I come home. And I
Okay.
usually, yeah, that's not too bad. That's earlier than we
So
started.
that's 5 Rav's time and 6 my time.
Then usually I come home and I'm like, I am now physically worn out from people. I'm not moving from my chair. Die.
My
And then you
weekends are
also get, yeah,
my weekends are pretty open, so honestly, whenever, as long as I have some prior time and knowledge, and I would like to start fairly early my time, just
right.
because that way we get more done over the course of
Yeah, I'm
the
probably fine with
afternoon.
starting at like 3:30 John's time.
Yeah.
That would be perfectly
You're
good with
also
me.
likely to get random overheard conversations with my current roommates, like where I determine, okay, don't discuss politics with Zach or conspiracy theories or any of the above. Well, his general reasoning is, well, we know the government does bad stuff, so how do you know it? And then it's like,
Well,
so ISIS is the CIA, you're saying?
kind of. The only thing I really get worried about is if you have music and stuff going in the background, because that can, if I'm streaming and I'm archiving it, that can get copyright hits. So
Ooh,
Yeah, that'll get you.
as long as we can avoid that kind of thing, live streaming. Honestly, it's all good because they don't police the live streaming. It's only when you do in the archives and get into YouTube and such. And
right.
generally, that can be.
I'm 98% sure that any music that I play will be only for my own ears, and you guys will be able to hear it. If you
I'll be
want
able
to
to
hear
sort
music
that out
coming
real
from it, let
quick.
me know and I'll turn
Oh
it off.
yeah, yeah. And if you got a good mic, that's like usually not the problem because I'm the only one that's going to be doing the capture and the only one that's doing the streaming. Okay. We will be using 5th
Let me
edition.
check.
Those of you who are eventually going to be watching on YouTube,
Uh,
5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Uh,
Let me check to see if any music on my going through my headset streams through the headset.
yeah, let's check that out
Because
first.
3 ain't enough, ladies and gentlemen, and 4 is too low.
Can you hear this?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Well, that does that. Well, what
There,
about now?
yeah, I'm
At
getting a
least
lot
the
of.
captures is in the public domain, so we're not going to get pinged for that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I
technically,
think a lot of
well,
chip tunes should be all right. Actually, it's mostly the. Well, you'd be surprised. Some people are real assholes about that. Anyway, we will find out. I've still got that echo going on, and that may be a contributing factor to why your thing is streaming.
bet she's causing it.
Blame it on the cat.
Yes.
All right,
Poor
you
Bossy.
both. Uh,
Poor
you know,
Bossy.
usually,
She's the one who defiles the couch out of protest when I leave. I'm trying to stop this.
Yeah. All right. So basically, that echo was kind of okay. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's something in my settings, but I'm not sure what to change, or what to change that won't result in destroying something else.
Yeah, we'll work on that later. But for now, um, this is basically where I go and do who's what. Go ahead and introduce yourselves if you want. Like your real life, whatever you do, it's a good time to plug whatever you do. Start with John.
Okay, I'm John. Let's see, what to promote? Well, I write a twice weekly toy review column at nerditis.com, and I have a novel coming out. You can check out a preview at lucydecember.com.
Right.
I also have a cat.
Apparently so. All right, and that it
That
w-
works for now.
works for now. Okay. Now, Connell, anything you'd like to introduce yourself with, or I don't even know if that's your real name or not, just what you've been
It's
using.
not, but that's fine.
But we'll.
Yes.
Hey,
So,
RPG Crawler's not mine, so.
yes, exactly. I don't really have anything to plug. I'm just here to play games.
All right, that works. That works. I'm the RPG Crawler. I've got a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/RPG Crawler. You can follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/RPG Crawler, or on Twitter at RPG Crawler. And on the Facebook at facebook.com/RPG Crawler. I managed to get all the whole the whole sweep of them. I usually stream old DOS games and new role-playing games that adhere to that old school feel. Tonight, we're going to be doing 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, I've said before. It's a custom campaign that I've been working on. It's going to be open world, kind of sandboxy, interactive in a way that kind of lets the players shape the world instead of having a set overall epic storyline. And this will allow me to run multiple groups as necessary. Hopefully, we'll get more players next week. This is basically an intro to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everything's working, and everybody has their character set up. Alright then, we have had them both at Pantheons. I'm still designing them. They're incredibly generic right now. You can feel free to design a particular god, and we'll see about working it in some manner or form. I'm aiming for a more old school kind of feel. If you've ever played Greyhawk or early Forgotten Realms, Mystara in the early days, that sort of thing.
So not old school as in like Hadad, Asherah, Moloch, that would be too old school?
Little bit.
I was actually going to go slightly more new school than what John is saying, and slightly more old school than what Crawler's saying, and I was going to be a clerk of the Morgan.
You did what,
That
children? Actually, that could work. What would work for a sorcerer whose day job is dancing and performing and bardishness almost?
you know,
You
whatever.
don't really need a god
Honestly,
at
you
that
don't.
point.
Yeah, you don't really need one. I mean,
It's almost like they live.
and
Yes.
I would imagine that they would go ahead and give veneration to whatever god they didn't particularly want to offend at that moment.
Yeah.
So that
So
might
a
be a
little
good way to
like
go.
tiny charms for every religion.
All right. Yeah, pretty much. If you want to go that way, that's an entirely acceptable method.
I'll think of
I'm
something.
getting a lot of jitter on my stream. I think a large part of it's to do with my new setup, but we'll see. We'll see how it handles. We've got a couple of viewers, which is good. Right now, we're going to call this the Valley of Erd. It's going to be around the River Erd. It's going to start very small, where you have a basic village, almost a small town, but not quite, settled on the bank of a river. The locals know very little about the world at large, except where it comes into play in terms of knowledges and specific character knowledges. And yeah, just waiting to see. Okay, You both have your characters pretty much made. Am I correct? In your
Yeah,
character
yes,
sheets and
a
everything.
couple of things like overland speed, and
I believe
Yeah.
your overland speed is the same as your regular movement
oh,
speed.
okay. I was wondering about the calculation for that. So,
And
and a
this
lot of the
yeah, this will have hex crawl components in it. So
okay,
we will need overland speed at some point. Maybe not in this first session. Maybe not even the first 5 sessions, but at some
right,
point.
right, and a lot of the personality boxes I usually save until I've had enough time to get a feel for the character because stuff
Right.
usually changes when you actually put it down on the page, sort of like the first few weird episodes of a TV show.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. We do want to kind of get things like backgrounds cemented.
Oh
Maybe
yeah, yeah,
not
we're almost done.
necessarily. Yeah,
Go
not
ahead.
necessarily. Sorry, I keep talking over. Not necessarily this first session, but before we get seriously into the adventures, we want to get your backgrounds and personality traits at least kind of sort of pegged, not necessarily specifically, because a new mechanic in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is inspiration, and that goes off of a lot of those traits.
Right.
Yep.
And
I'm watching the camera, so I'm kind of missing everyone's visual cues. There we go.
oh, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of like how in the Pathfinder game we're also playing, it took me a few weeks to get my characters down, but now his personality is kind of everywhere.
right. And
So,
hopefully this will give you some good guidelines, and maybe you'll end up dead in the first session. We don't know because it's
like with the door.
Again?
yeah. Yeah, I mean it happens as clearly seen. I'm not going to set out to kill you, but then again, I'm
Well,
not.
this is why I'm playing cleric, so that way I
Yeah,
can revive John. Whereas
Do
when
I
yeah,
I
need
was
to go get
playing
my
fighter, I could
Acerarak?
only save myself.
Do I need to go get my Acerarak? Because I have an Acerarak.
Oh man, I've only run. I'm not going to run that in fifth
Really, I
edition.
made him with that little Halloween skull, glue, and rhinestone.
Yeah, I remember you remember that. But okay, so let's introduce the characters, and
Okay.
it might be useful to change your display name to your character name as
Okay.
you go.
This
So
is
we'll
going to be
start with John.
okay. Well,
It,
I'm playing. Come on, page to load. There we go. Okay. Well, because I have this strange, almost pathological aversion to playing normal human characters. So I'm playing a tiefling sorceress named Shala, whose entire background is that she's a performer. She's a dancer mostly. Also has the instrument tambourine that goes well with dancing again. Very much. While most tieflings are inherently distrusted, and there are probably assumptions when you see her, she's very much a charismatic, cheerful, friendly type who can, in a lot of people's minds, sort of be the exception. Now, what this might relate to in terms of intelligence, we'll see. But she's also trying to prove that she has at least some smarts with the whole sorcery thing.
and you don't have to necessarily go into specifics as far as your pact and alignment goes, but you
Right.
can if you want. I mean, throwing it out there, you can, or you can keep your alignment and such secret,
Mm-hmm.
whichever you decide to do. Nothing to
There
add?
we go. Yep, sounds good. Let me change the name
Okay.
over. Come on, load. For some weird reason, Chrome's being very slow for me right now.
Yeah, Chrome's
So,
being real slow for me right now as well.
yep,
Firefox is being Firefox for me, so.
Yeah. I'm trying to run this in Chrome just because I have so many Firefox windows open and I want to be able to just capture it in my stream. So,
there we go. So, obviously the name in this portrait here totally fit. A pretty attractive woman. Do I have to
alright,
get
there
my
you go.
wig? No, I won't.
Shala. Alright. And next we'll go to Connell Lenore first.
Yes, I am a power gamer, so I went with the one that I thought would give the best stats. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't have Drew here. Someone totally different.
I am playing Lenora Galatheon. I don't read Game of Thrones, so don't even ask. Um, she is a cleric of the Morgan, and I took the sage background for her, which made her a Sunday school teacher of a sort. But
Right.
her divine domain is the domain of war. So she espouses the martial aspect of the Morgan rather than the death aspect.
And
So she is a teacher and an educator who also studied the martial arts and learned how to defend herself and keep herself alive in heavy armor, as shown by the heavy armor master feat. She has been spurred to adventure by receiving a letter from one of her mentors asking her to solve his murder.
Okay.
She is a introspective sort of person who believes that the goal of life study is to better oneself, and she is searching for her mentor's killer. She enjoys mysteries, but she doesn't like to jump to conclusions, which probably helps with cracking mysteries. And her biggest flaw is that she has a very hard time keeping her mouth shut or keeping a secret. She likes to share her knowledge, and that can be a little troublesome sometimes when it would have been better for her to just be quiet.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
think we all know people like that.
Yeah.
All right. So the two characters, we're going to have them start knowing each other. They're both,
Oh my.
if not necessarily directly from the same village, they're both starting in the same village, which is basically the village of Kent, and that is on the banks of the River Erd. What you know about the village is that there are settlements to the north and south, just a few miles either way. There is a river that comes from the north, circles around in a broad bend, and then flows out south towards a swampland. To the east and to the north, there's a forest. To the west and to the south, across the river, are more fields and open plains. In the distance, on all sides, are larger mountains that set off the valley of Erd. As far as travel goes, you have to go more than 6 or 7 miles in every direction, in any direction, to really get anywhere. And that's not something that the villagers usually do. They're usually very closed in, except I'm getting that echo distracting me. So what you've got in terms of other settlements that you know of, the one to the north is called Dead Man's Watch, and it's basically a military fort. To the north, you also know that the ruins of an ancient castle is situated, said to be haunted. However, more than that, you're probably going to need some history checks in order to find out. To the south, along the river, there's a village, another village, substantially smaller, almost a hamlet, just situated on the edge of the swamplands. Basically, most of the goods, most of the goods produced in the village of Kent are shipped south, and then over barges through the swamplands to more civilized places. The village of Kent does have a castle looking over it. It's on a small outcropping. It's not a large castle. It's mostly just a keep with a small curtain wall around it. Very old. It is said that the ancient line of Kent used to have a large weapon that dominated the area. It used to keep the entire area under a kind of peace of threat. Basically, nobody wanted to mess with their supposedly supernatural weapon, and therefore peace kept for many centuries. Over time, that weapon was forgotten about. Nobody knows what it is or where it is anymore. The prospects of the village of Kent have declined in recent years as a result of that. So, I'm sorry again. Somebody talking to me. Yeah, that's yours. Sorry.
Oh, good.
So, Sunday school teacher meets pole dancer.
Yeah,
They already know each other.
somehow. I mean,
This is turning
it
into
is.
a Susha type scenario here. You don't watch the kids? Sure.
It is not a large village, so you probably know most of the people there in some form or other.
Also, I think I found the cat's off switch.
Oh,
It's mounted on the underbelly.
Yep.
yeah,
There she's out. Oh, that's good. Less likely to get face stomped.
right. I printed one out. Yeah. Okay.
Like she was visiting to just.
All right. Just getting insurance papers set up for vehicles.
No trouble.
All right. See, where were we? Oh yeah, the village is not very large. There's not even a wall. There's just there is a village church. It's not dedicated to any one god. It's basically a large collection of chapels under a single roof.
Like the
There's
Unitarian Universalist Church.
yeah, it's basically the only stone structure for worship that's in the town proper. Now there are tales of standing stones out in the forests where druids and such gather. As you don't have a druid in the party, you don't know specifics. Um, there is a town constable, Tom Bandy, and he basically patrols the few little streets that are around the village, and has a collection of maybe 8 or 9 volunteers under his watch.
Okay.
That's as far as law enforcement goes. There are professional soldiers and guards up at the castle. You know about them, but you don't interact with them much. They mostly keep to the Baron's castle and keep. See, as far as magic goes, there are 2 wizards in town, both of which keep to themselves, both of which are near unapproachable. One is a recluse that lives in an almost manor-like mansion on the south east of town. We need to do something about that echo
Hmm.
because it's really
Yeah.
distracting.
I'm not hearing it on my end, so it's probably something about my headset.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's
Yeah,
about
it
that.
seems like your sound output is going to your laptop speakers instead of your headset speakers.
So what settings should I be changing?
Go to the control panel.
Volume control options or playback recording devices?
No, sound.
Sounds. All right.
All right, sorry about that. I was just getting feedback. The more I talked, the louder my echo got,
Mm-hmm.
and that could be
And
problematic.
then you want to make sure that your headset is checked as the default device. Right now, your speakers are probably the default device.
Yep. Playback speakers versus.
Yeah,
No, wait,
you want to make
default device
headset.
are the speakers on the USB audio device.
Playback or recording?
Playback. Recording, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it should be the same thing for recording.
Yeah.
We'll talk now, Rob, and see if there's anything.
All right. Well, it's usually not a problem with just 1 or 2 sentences. It's when I start to ramble on, and or do large descriptions and such, then it kind of feedbacks and gets louder and louder, and I didn't hear it, so that's good. We may have solved it, whatever
I
that
think
did.
whatever we just did might have solved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I did was take a look. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's quantum physics in the computer. When you observe it, the problem fixes itself, so you can't fix it.
All right.
You changed it
That's-
by measuring it.
Exactly.
Hey, you never know. My mother can really screw up a computer just walking within 10 feet of it. I mean, she doesn't even need to touch it.
My mom said, "Oh, this pop-up says I need to download an antivirus program."
Yeah.
8 hours.
Yeah.
It took 8 hours to fix, but I didn't have to wipe her hard drive.
Hey, that's a plus.
Yeah.
And hello, those who are watching. I'm not sure who those are. I think that may just be us 3 if Anyway, we'll go ahead and continue. All right, you start at the one inn in town, which is basically, let me check it, the Moorlight Inn. It is not a large place. Basically, a common room, no more than 4 guest rooms. It's not even open most of the time. Well, for meals and such, but in terms of having a regular supply of ale and booze, they basically have to wait until the local farmers can get together and actually brew something. In terms of taverns, yeah, I'm getting the echo again. In terms of taverns in town, the they basically crop up whenever a particular farmer has an excessive harvest and decides to make some beer and or wine. So it's kind of a one farmer comes up, says, "I've got I've got some booze," and then his house becomes a tavern. People go there buy the booze until he runs out. It's basically a medieval, uh, a standard medieval setup. I'm getting some echoing. That's all right.
But I just tried observing it again. I'm
Well,
playing this cat.
yeah,
Who's just
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out over time, and it may have something to do with the volume, the playback too. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Okay, we'll start. We'll go ahead and start at the tavern. It is, or not the tavern, at that inn, the Moorlight Inn. It is late afternoon, and what would you two be doing on any given day at late afternoon?
Well,
Dancer's probably got it pretty easy.
yeah. I guess how she makes money. 10-foot pole appears to be metal. Hey, not gonna say much.
Just don't get any ideas with any ladders.
True. I laugh. Cat looks at me. Go back to sleep, Cat. Oh, she's out.
Right? And as for Lenora,
Lenora would probably be just returning from performing services at the little unit chapel, and
okay.
or trying to gather more information about her mentor's death.
All right. As Lenora comes walking down the main street of the village, very close outside of the Moorside Inn, she sees one of the local farmers' wives coming up in absolute tears, coming towards the tavern. She looks completely distraught, sobbing, inconsolable, but she seems to be moving alone through the streets as the shadows grow longer. It's not usually a time that these sorts of usually in the farmhouse, usually the men that come out to the tavern in the evening. She's coming towards the Moorside Inn, just looks completely distraught. Is out of place. Kind of rings out of place to you.
Well, she's inconsolable. I'm going to try and console her anyway. Lenora
All
will approach and try to inquire as to what is bothering the poor woman.
right. As you near, she looks up, tears streaming down her face. You recognize her as Dolly Dawn. Now, the Dawn family owns a farm north of town, very in that small strip of farmland between the village and the forest on the east side of the River Erd. You recognize her because she said she's been to the chapel before. She has told you about her son, and her son has gone off to join a group of bandits in the northern woods almost 4 months ago. Right? But now, I mean, she was pretty upset about that. But now, as you approach, she immediately turns to you and says, "Oh no, my boy, my boy. I've just heard news that the northern bandits have been wiped out. A creature A creature came out of the trees, he says. I have no idea. I have no idea if he's all right or if he's not. Only one of them made it to town. What do you do?
I will ask her to wait here a moment, and I will go and get Shala and have her come with me as the woman leads me to.
Okay.
Um,
So
I
you're
know I'm
basically
making 4 actions at once here.
volunteering to help.
Uh,
Go ahead and say what you say to her. If you want.
It's a slight embarrassment of us, actually speaking the dialogue
Yeah.
into someone
As
who
opposed
brings
to
up our
typing it in.
but
Yes.
well, I'm not going to speak in a
You
falsetto.
don't have to.
So.
No. I can't do voices worth of shit anyway. So that.
Yes, we will go to war. No.
Yes, okay.
Um,
Actually, that may have been what killed
Lenora
me.
will reach out to put her hand on the woman's shoulder
Okay.
and say, "Hope is not yet lost. I have a friend, and I believe that she will help us. Let us go and speak to her, and then we will go and speak to the last bandit. And if we cannot find your son, we will find peace for your son."
She nods and immediately grabs at your clothing and says, thank you so much. Nobody would help me. They believe that those boys were just bad to the core. Any sort of help to ease my mind will be appreciated." And she does follow. She follows you in. So
And meanwhile,
That'll do fine.
the trusted friend who's going to compassionately help out and do a wonderful thing is pretty much in mid upside down spin on the way down the pole. Yes. Irony? Maybe not.
Hmm.
I wonder if if the sun's gone down enough to move over on the couch. Nah, not yet.
You need to invest in some blinds, my friend.
True, we do have neighbors. One thing at a time. Right now we have to keep this floor from going when you step on it.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
The apartment building is liable, so we're good. Except
Indeed.
for a guy who appears to be a Mexican guy with a Japanese name shows up once in every I don't know when.
All right. So Lenora walks in and sees Shala still performing, just
I will
finishing up.
motion. Lenora will motion to Shala to come on over.
Right. The crowd is not terribly dense right now, so Shala can feel free to take a break at that moment. There's just a few farmers sitting around watching the show, a couple out of town travelers, mostly merchants. The bartender is a large, burly, bald fellow in
As
his
they all
late
are.
40s. Well, not necessarily all, but
True, sometimes they have mustaches.
his wife is the only barmaid. She's relatively attractive. She's also 20 years younger than him. Generally considered a good catch. So they're the two are fairly popular in town, aside from running the only inn in town. So Dolly Don following Lenora in as they go. Shala sees Dolly all in tears as well, although she does look to have stopped crying at least uh, after hearing Lenora's news. So go ahead.
Shala's going to take just long enough to finish that set, then bow, say thank you, and graciously immediately slip over to Lenora and Dolly.
Right.
Immediately. With a high smile, big hug to her friend, and so the Sunday school shall be scandalized. Like anybody.
Lenora's not a hugger. She doesn't hug.
She still gets hugged. Can't escape it.
Lenora looks to Shala and says, "We have business to conduct."
What kind of business?
There was a group of bandits in the forest to the north. Was being the operative phrase,
So
but they may not all be gone just yet. poor Dolly's son was one of them. They were attacked by some sort of monster.
So,
And if the monster was powerful enough to wipe out the bandits, we certainly do not want it approaching the village.
so are you talking bandits or are you talking monster?
I'm talking monster.
Oh, okay. Did they say what kind of monster?
The woman shakes her head and says, "No, they
Is it
just
a
said."
Well, we're going to go ask and find out.
Is it a bear?
Dolly Dawn shakes her head and says, "Don't know. All I know is that says all I know is that it came out from the trees and murdered them one by one. That's what the lone survivor says. He's currently laid up north of town, north of the village. Tom Bandy is looking after him. He's
Doesn't
wounded to the
sound like
point where he can barely speak."
Okay, well, um, we should really go then. I'm sorry about that. Really.
Then let us go see this bandit and see what we can ascertain.
All right. So Dolly Dawn
I
leads
should
you
really go.
out of the Moorlight Inn and along the northern road. Once you've passed the main core of buildings in the village, it's mostly fields with a few farmhouses dotting here and there. One moment, I just got dinged here.
That's fine.
All right, mostly fields and farms with a few farmhouses dotted here and there. The eaves of the trees loom up on the maybe I want to say maybe a mile to a half a mile out. It's not that far away to the northern woods. In front of one of the farmhouses, not more than about sorry, bleh, not more than about 50 yards from the road, Tom Bandy, is a middle-aged fellow in a leather jerkin with a hand axe at his side and a spear leaning against his shoulder, is kneeling next to what appears to be a man on the road. There is an old woman beside him, tending to the man's wounds. Even from a distance, you can tell that the man on the road, a young man in his early 20s at best, is suffering severely. He's got a massive gash right across his chest that exposes clear down to the bones. His shirt is soaked with blood, and his left leg is bent in the wrong direction. Okay.
Um, is his condition going to get worse before it gets better, or is he just hanging on before he slips away?
You're not sure at that distance. You recognize the old woman tending to him as one of the actually one of the midwives in the area. She was probably called upon because she was the closest thing to medical services that they could, even approach without going into the main village. She may be able to keep him alive, from past experience, as long as he's still breathing. But at that distance, you can't really tell.
That's where
Well, then I think it's time to get closer.
Shouldn't we get one of the healers from town to come out here? Do you want me
You
to go
already
and find
did.
one? I can try convincing them.
Yeah, Lenora is basically the town healer. There is not a lot in terms of magical healing. Lenora and maybe what's known as the Wood Witch, although she doesn't really come into town at all. Basically, what you got in terms of magical healing. In terms of non-magical healing, there's a couple midwives, there's an herbalist that lives in town, that sort of thing, but they mostly use non-magical healing methods.
It doesn't show in the camera, but it's almost completely dark in here right now. I'm gonna go turn on the second lamp.
Alright,
And
go ahead.
1 second.
It's almost completely dark, and I'm looking at like what's basically a window into the sky. God damn West Coasters.
There we go. There we go. Well, the sun's almost completely down, but again, it's not showing on the camera. It's making it look like bright, shiny daytime.
Yeah.
When really by now Dracula could probably sneak around and get away with it.
So anyway, You ready? Okay. You approach the fallen man, the constable, and the midwife. Uh, Dolly Don has fallen in a step behind you, kind of lagging behind. Tom Bandy looks up. He's got scraggly brown hair, kind of a wearied face, just shot through with gray. Says, "Oh, thank goodness you're here, Lenora. This man's about a hair's breadth away from the Reaper's grasp. Can you do anything for
If Morgan permits it, I will certainly make an attempt.
him?"
And I will kneel down next to the bandit and begin casting Cure Wounds.
Right. He goes ahead and ushers the midwife aside to give you room to work. Go ahead and what is it? A roll now? I'm not sure how these new spells work. I gotta admit. Go ahead and roll your cure wounds, whatever damage it.
Word. Takes
Yes.
an action.
Yeah.
While she's rolling,
Yeah,
In
I'm
terms
trying to
of
find the
how much it.
description in the book to see how much it heals.
and while
Yeah.
you're rolling and thus she's casting, Shala sneaks up to his other side to kind of distract him in case he's weary about magic.
Right.
With, well, honestly, more pleasant things like like, oh, you gotta keep up some hope, keep a smile on your face. I know things are really, really hard right now, but you still got a leg, at least one.
Cure wounds cures 1d8 plus your spellcasting modifier.
Yep, I'll roll that as soon as.
We'll go ahead
Roll
and
decides to
can you
accept
roll it
There
in
we go.
d20, I guess? Unless you really,
Yep.
really want to. Yeah. Okay.
9
That
hit points, which is
yeah,
probably
that
the entire total.
completely heals him. His wounds start closing up on each other. They knit together. His leg's still broke, but at least it doesn't look like it's flopping around. And the man regains consciousness. He awakens with a start. Oh my God! It's coming after me! It's coming after me! But then he realizes where he is, and Tom lays a hand on his shoulder, and he calms down. Looks at you with a look of shock and surprise. You've never seen this man before, but you're pretty sure he's a local. He's got that kind of look. The grungy,
Yeah, he feels
dirt-covered
like a
look.
townie.
One of the same family,
Yeah.
one of the same part of the family and a half that runs the whole place and populates. Hey, I used to live in Monterey, Tennessee. So who's related to the Bowmans here? You. Your marriage prospects are kind of scary, my friend.
Not going there.
My sister's not visiting.
Lenora will reach out and put her hand on the man's other shoulder and try and steady him a little bit and
Right.
just ask him what was chasing you, what happened.
And she, after a moment, after he calms down for a second, he speaks very slowly. Well, it started a couple nights ago. One of our patrols disappeared. Then old Bones over there, he points to the forest. Our leader, our boss, he said, started sending us to go out to look for the lost patrol, and the search parties didn't come back. Almost 6 guys down without even so much as a sound of a fight in the forest. So he gathered us up en masse and started walking out there real slowly, real carefully, just checking the forest inch by inch for what happened to these guys. And we started finding them. They'd been busted up. I mean, completely ripped up. It looked like some sort of animal did it, except the wounds were caused by, I want to say, a cleaver or something. I don't know. As for what ambushed me, he says, it was very dark. I couldn't see. Whatever it was stood taller than any man that I could name, and it cut me down in a single blow. And while I was sitting there with consciousness ebbing, it picked me up and it threw me. The only reason I think it didn't finish me off was because then old Bones came from the forest, and I saw it cut the boss's head off in a single blow. After that, I passed out for a while. When I woke up, there was nothing but death around me. I turned and crawled back to the village as fast as best I could, but it still took me the better part of an hour.
One moment, door opening, and hey, welcome back. They're currently streaming the chat going on right now. Just so you know. Yeah, for the Tuesday game. It'll actually be like streaming somewhere online. Hey, welcome back. Yeah, so that's like the don't
He needs
touch
a
anything
push to
delivery
talk button.
Anyway, you never know what'll
Hey,
come up.
I don't even know
hey,
if Roll20 supports push to talk.
It's
I'm not sure either. Anyway, it says basically it took me close to an hour to get back into town. By then I don't remember what happened. Everything was foggy. Everything was dark. Old Matilda found me. Then Mr. Bandy came by, and the last thing I remember is waking up here. Matilda is the midwife, by the way. Would probably know her name, but probably not even bother to say it most of the time.
Lenora will give the bandit a warm yet tight-lipped smile and say to him, "Not everyone gets a second chance. You may wish to consider joining the town guard instead of the banditry."
This really is starting to sound less and less like a bear, Shala says.
Then Lenora will rise and turn to Shala and lower her voice considerably and say, "This may be out of our depth. We may need to take this to a higher authority."
Maybe. I mean, I'm equipped for bears.
In
You're
term
also obsessed.
in terms of law enforcement, you're standing right next to the higher authority, which is Tom Bandy. Above him is just the Baron and his men area. There's not a lot of options in terms of town.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of the Baron rather than Tom,
Right.
because this thing sounds like it's a pretty mean customer, and
Right.
Yes.
half a dozen town guardsmen with spears might not be the best thing to throw at it.
Right. So it by this time, it is now dusk. The sun is beginning to set on the horizon. Everything's beginning to go twilight. It'll be well past sunset once you get back into the village and near to the Baron's place. So
Oh, it's a good thing light is a cantrip.
yeah. Okay. All right. Close enough.
Hey, no, that's a knock on someone else's door. Hard to hear.
All right.
Do that.
That'll work. That'll work. All right. So what do you do?
I think the smart thing would be that we go and see the Baron in this case, or try to.
It might be better to wait until morning, because I doubt that the Baron is going to want to see us in the middle of the night. So we would walk there and then have to walk home.
True.
While the Baron's Keep does overlook town, it does take around a half hour to 45 minutes just to walk up there because you're going the long way around the back of the over, basically on a ridge, and there is a
Right.
slope around
Through the
back.
scenic route,
Right.
so that we can
Yeah.
stand there and look at his keep as long as we possibly can.
Yeah. Basically, it's either that or scale the cliff, which is not undoable. It's only about a 50-foot rise, but it's a steep 50-foot rise.
Yeah, I can see that being a problem.
We do have rope at least,
That's
but
true.
no, it's not something that we need to be doing right now.
All right. So I guess you head back to the Moorlight Inn. You do have quarters, your own quarters. Not necessarily at well, Shala's is at the inn. She gets a free room as long as she's providing some sort of service.
Yep.
Which she does.
Lenora has a small area in the church that she can use for basically sleeping and studying. In terms of foodstuffs, we will go ahead. I don't necessarily know. Does Fifth Edition have a like an upkeep,
I don't know, but you
a
start out with
simplified upkeep?
hilariously low amounts of gold if you take the equipment, or you end up with a small amount of gold that'll all be wiped out.
Yeah. Well, basically, we're
The average
talking about
character has around $10.
Yeah, we're basically talking about a handful of copper or a handful of silver that, in terms of
I
foodstuffs.
do not believe that there is a lifestyle system or anything
All
like
right,
that.
all right. There may be in the DMG. The DMG is out in December, uh, apparently.
Right.
So we'll see from there. For now, just go ahead and count off. Since you've already got your lodgings, uh, you know, Shala can make a check and just basically get your food and your drink taken care of for the.
Sure.
Um,
Hmm.
Which stat do I roll for that?
that would be whatever you're using to dance and perform.
Oh, that'll be charisma.
That'd be performance.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, performance. Let me see here. What is on the sheet?
and the
Oh hey,
DC
great.
will be
It's
15.
okay,
Get
and she's got a +6 thanks to the proficiency. Hello, cat.
Um, for anyone who happens to be watching and is familiar with older editions of D&D, in 5th edition there is no such thing as a skill that can only be used on train. Um, there are also no skill ranks. You either have proficiency in a skill or you don't. Having proficiency in a skill lets you add your proficiency bonus, which is based on your overall character level. It starts out at +2 at first level, and it goes up to +6 at, I believe, 17. And it
yes.
scales fairly linearly along the way. There's also proficiencies available for musical instruments and tools that you can be proficient in to credit your proficiency bonus. Unless something specifically tells you to add double your proficiency bonus, having overlapping proficiencies doesn't help you. You just get your proficiency bonus once.
A good explanation.
Yes.
Really helpful, I think. I know we've got a couple people that are unfamiliar with the system that are watching right now. So, all right, that is more than enough to cover your meals and your drink for the
Pretty
night.
complex.
Uh, so it was yeah, it was you beat a DC if you beat the DC by 10. So
Yeah.
the night passes peacefully. The next morning, you're awakened basically by the crow, by the roosters outside, the crow of the roosters, and you're free to do whatever you want.
Well,
Well, this is when I would pray for new spells, but
Okay.
my prepared spells are currently um, pretty good. I'm
Yeah,
happy with my
at
prepared
some
spell
point
lists.
I'll probably have you start sending me lists of that, but I suspect that you've only got what, like a couple of them,
I
yeah.
have my 2 spells from my domain,
right?
and then I can prepare 4 spells because I'm a first level cleric with a +3 wisdom modifier.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
I only
so
have 2 spell slots, so
right,
I have 6 first level spells that I can cast, but I only have 2 total castings. And
right,
unlike previous editions, casting a spell does not remove it from your preparation list.
all right. So just go ahead and I guess message me on Roll20 or whatever with
With the
with your
list.
spell prepare whatever you've got prepared, um,
Oh,
and
sure.
yeah, go from there.
Sure. Let me type this up as well, since Shala will be researching her own spells too.
Yeah, and the sorcerer. I'm not sure how sorcerers work because I haven't read them yet, embarrassingly enough.
Sometimes yes, but you pick the ones for the list, pretty much.
Yeah,
Sorcerers are like old editions where you just know a smaller
just
sip,
know.
and there's no needing to choose.
All right, good, good.
And now I'll just fix up my typos in the process. And I've messaged that. I still spend enough time to research, study, and completely go against go against the normal public opinion. I can read, and then go and try to find where Lenora went. Weird.
It does not take long to find Lenora because she is either in the inn or in the chapel. There's only really 2 places. I mean, unless she
Yeah,
wanted to go out into the woods or something.
not on that stuff.
Just making sure.
Mm-hmm.
And this pastes very strangely to my document, but I can clean it up later.
Ah, okay. So, odd lull for a moment.
It
Coffee.
Yeah, I'm just kind of copying these into a document so that I can keep track of them. All right. How long have we been doing this? Because may be a good time to take a break if you need one. So
7:10 my time, 9:10 your time.
but yeah, so it's been what, about 2 hours? No, well, I mean, it should have been 2 hours if we had started at my usual time. So it's been an hour and some change.
Well after
You can take a break if you want, just a couple minutes if you need to.
that. I'll be I'll be able to sit
I'm good.
on the couch again. I'll be
All right. I kind of want to get it because oh, there goes.
Wow, that's yeah. You took the headphones off, so they just blinded
Okay.
Actually,
themselves.
it was the middle thing that half unplugged on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's back now.
You know, I gotta wonder if it wasn't half unplugged before. No, I'm getting the echo again. God damn it, man.
It's her fault.
Yeah.
Yes,
s-
this cat's a living prop today.
I, s-
No, she's
I
not.
spent
Stop doing that.
I spent $4 on these things, and they work better than that.
Yep.
That's all right.
Living prop.
All right. So you all settled?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
good
actually
to go.
gonna shift like one couch cushion's worth to the left. Let me move slowly and hopefully not unplug anything.
But basically, I want to get in the habit of going ahead and taking a break every hour to hour and a half. Maybe not necessarily a long break, but just 'cause we do get so much more done
When there's
over voice.
using a voice. Oh yeah.
You know, when you're not waiting on people to go
Yeah.
away from the keyboard and such.
And you know if someone's away as opposed to just silence
Yeah,
and typing.
yeah. You don't know whether they're typing something long or whether they're playing Nintendo or something. Anyway.
Well, family, that's always great to get over speaker.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Mom, you have lacrosse in the morning.
Okay. Next morning, you go out, you find Lenora, and guess you're good to go to the Barrens, unless you've got anything else you want to do.
Actually, real life is kind of interfering right now, and I'm gonna have to cut this short because I
Okay.
need my ears.
Okay.
All right.
We still got the beginning.
So sorry about that, but
No problem. You gonna go ahead and call it here?
All right.
All right. Well, if you've got any, go ahead and call it. And thank you for joining us. This has been the RPG Crawler with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Hopefully, in the future, we'll have a little bit more time to log out. This has just been a setup session, getting characters introduced. We should be getting a lot cleaner and a lot better as time goes on. I have no idea what our schedule is going to look at, but we will try to play again Saturday. And thank you for joining and watching us. Again, if this is your first time here, you can follow my VODs of various playthroughs of DOS games at youtube.com/rpgcrawler. You can follow me at Twitter at rpgcrawler or on Facebook at facebook.com/rpgcrawler. Take care and good night.